Hello, everybody. Welcome. Can you guys hear me in the back? You can hear me in the back. Great. All those thumbs up. Lots of beautiful thumbs. Nice to see everybody. Thanks for choosing poetry on a Thursday night in Tucson. I want to affirm you have made an excellent decision with your time, and we're really glad you're here. Welcome to the Poetry Center. My name is Tyler. I work here as the director at the Poetry Center, and we're thrilled tonight to have Eileen Myles with us in Tucson. And to be here at the Poetry Center to speak to everybody. So, and really quickly, before we get going, I just want to give us some quick housekeeping things about what's coming up at the center, just so you know what's happening. We have each Thursday for the next 3 weeks, there are readings here at the center right back in this space at 7 o'clock. So on November 2nd at 7 p.m., we have the poets Adam Davis and Manuel Paul Lopez. And they'll be here reading together on the 2nd, back here at 7. On the 9th, November 9th, we have the poet and translator Sawako Nakayasu, who will be here as the keynote of the ALTA conference. So if you don't know, ALTA is the American Literary Translators Association. They're based here in Tucson, and they're bringing their conference to Tucson this year. So that happens November 9, 10, 11. And it's 400 translators coming to our city. So these are all the people that bring literature between languages, all the languages, moving back and forth. We're really thrilled about that. Beautiful work. You can learn more about ALTA by Googling them, American Literary Translators Association. The conference has a fee, and I think there's maybe still a way that someone could sign up to come to the conference. Maybe not. On site, come on site. But there are also some free events you can learn about if you visit the website and things that are happening. So we're excited about that. Sawako's reading here is free, and that kind of helps launch into the conference. So we're excited about that. And then on the 16th, we have the poet Marilyn Chin, who will be here reading, and we're thrilled about that too. So lots of great readings coming up. All of those poets, many of those poets are teaching classes at the Poetry Center. So if you're interested in having a connection with them while they're here, Eileen taught an amazing class last night here, so we're thrilled about that. Great, lots of applause, this is good. You can learn all about those classes in these calendars, and there's some of these that are on the table right outside in the breezeway, and that will tell you about those events that I mentioned and everything else as well as the classes. We're gonna forego a Q&A tonight because we want you especially to find the books. So those are for sale over here on my right, and you can find those after the reading, and they'll be happy to sell those to you, and then Eileen's happy to sign those afterwards. So make sure you do that. And then to introduce Eileen, I'm thrilled to welcome up a friend and colleague, Raquel Gutierrez, a writer, journalist, poet. Raquel is the author of the excellent essay collection, Brown Neon. Teaches variously in many different places, and we're thrilled to be in community with Raquel here in Tucson and working with them as much as we get to. It's a gift. Please help me welcome Raquel Gutierrez.
All right. All right, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. It's a full house. And as the late, great Jose Munoz would say, these lights are homophobic. But I digress. It's incredible to be here. It's nice to wear two long sleeve shirts together. And, we did it. We survived another summer here in Tucson. So for everyone that stayed in town, God bless y'all. Goddess bless y'all. All right. So think of this introduction as our queer to sir with love. Eileen Myles has saved many of our lives. And for me, I too am a former or survivor Catholic school kid. And so it's hard not to think of Eileen as a patron saint of language, the language of desire, the language of self-formation. I've gleaned from reading this work, and you may have too, that lust for a queer touch could also be the same energizing force that we can harness to call out impunity and rage against the systems that thrive on the backs of the dispossessed. It was Eileen's prose that got me first. I arrived to Chelsea Girls with much gusto. Saying that you own the Black Sparrow edition of Chelsea Girls is equivalent to saying you went to the first Coachella, which I did. It is a text that exemplifies resistance to genre convention. It's proof that we could loosen the straps of our captivity, to do away with policing ourselves, policing each other, that we could live, risk, fuck, and fail fantastically on our own terms. Thank you, Eileen. For me, Eileen Myles is a true avatar of genre promiscuity and has modeled for me, for many of us, a way of being in this world through dogged persistence and giving back to your communities, to be an artery in your creative ecosystem, to give, to give, to give. And then you will maybe get, you give what you get what you give. In this terrible, deadly world, in this world we all continue to inhabit and push against and desire for its necessary transformation, Eileen Myles' words buoy me into, what Jose Munoz would call a radical condition of possibility. Eileen Myles is here tonight to read poems from a working life, which I believe is their 25th book. Not many of us can say that, so it's amazing. 25 publications, 25 texts, 25 books, everyone. Here in these poems reside many of my favorite things. So thank you for that. Dogs, Texas, big skies, coffee, friendship, and desire, or what it means to live meaningfully under late capitalism. Please join me in welcoming Eileen Myles to the Poetry Center.
Hi, that was so awesome. Thank you so much. And Raquel's like my new best friend. So, I'm gonna kind of fulfill the promiscuity genre thing by reading sort of all over the place tonight. I'm gonna start with an essay, and then I'm gonna read from this book, and then read some new poems, and with a story, and try and make that all possible. And also, because I'm total animal fetishist, and I know some of you guys love animals. And so if you love animals, you give money to animal things, and then you have thousands of animal calendars. So I brought some animal calendars and some kind of pig newsletters. And so if you guys want to get a book and signing it, or you don't even have to buy a book, I'll give you an animal calendar and I'll sign it, and a pig newsletter too. With the thought you could give them money, you can, get your richest friend to give them some money and then just live with animals all year. But I'm going to start with this essay called Perverse Reading. And there's a slant all over the place here. It was kind of, I think I'll visit in that area. Okay. I mean, I was in Berlin and I said something, and this guy said, "Would you write an essay about that?" And I was like, "No." And then I wound up doing it. And I think it's not even getting published, but somewhere, sometime. Perverse reading. The thing I will say about being young is I hated it. I wasn't anybody. I was broke. My apartment was a mess. I shouldn't drink so much. I only stopped criticizing my body when I was doing drugs. And the thing I liked about the act of reading is that my body would get lost and I would go someplace else. The thing I didn't think so much about was the pages, so many of them, and turning all the time as the moments passed and I was free. If I liked a song, I would play it again and again. It didn't even strike me as peculiar. I remember one song that made me feel so elevated when I listened to it that I became this other person I called a Rococo wanderer. And she just roamed around in a bodiless way on the face of the earth and saw things. The turning of the record created that. The black disc turning, making time and mind. I was dreaming. And the record was a chant through a petrochemical electrical one. It required I pay my bill, which I mostly did. But I hated paying my bills, and I hated doing dishes. I hate cleaning the cat litter again and again. I hated going down the stairs of my building, and I hated going up. I hated the subway. I hated doing my laundry. And though I liked watching it going around and around, once it was in and I could sit on the wooden bench dreaming. I hated holidays. I hated them coming again, thinking of last year my family wanted me back and the compulsiveness with which I went to them. I had liked going to confession when I was a practicing Catholic. I liked the relief. Though I confessed the same poems, sins, again and again, and when I said something different, it got weird. Suddenly it was about him, meaning the priest, rather than previous no one. By doing nothing, just getting wiped clean, I stopped going. I started going to therapy about 5 years ago. I meant to go slightly before, but instead I got in a relationship, and mostly in therapy we talked about her. But my therapist pronounced her name funny, kind of misgendering her, and I like that. But he always forgot to use my correct pronoun, which I didn't like. When she was gone, we talked about me, and we arrived up on the great topic, which is the return. I've concluded that the reason rock stars die young is that they didn't want to do it. I did. I came in saying the reason I had come was this feeling I had that I was turning a corner, and I wanted help with that. My therapist would remind me that turning a corner was my request when I came to him, and instead we spent 3 or 4 years talking about her. It made me dislike her, though I certainly thought that was my definition of a relationship. Being obsessed, and if I were a whiteboard, it would be about wiping me out daily and writing in her. We got to it in the aftermath of her, and it's this. He said, this point in my life, and he meant late. I'm fairly late in the day. I think I'm like a rambunctious evening, in which you may or may not go out, but you've done everything before. Some things a lot, and other things not enough. And he was like, what is it you haven't done enough of? And that's a big open spot. And though I like to confess all I want to say is that that spot is, and I can fill it, and that's what I'm doing right now. I remember watching Julian Beck cut vegetables in the kitchen with a good knife on a cutting board. That was a film, and he was very important to the person who gave me the film, not so much to me, but that scene has stayed with me all my life. I dream that someone has a camera and follows me in the morning. It's like the Walter Mosley book I found on the sidewalk one night on the corner. It was bent, having just fallen out of somebody else's back pocket. I read it, feeling in love with the randomness of the gift. I hope the camera never comes, but I like the sensation of being alone with the thought. It's how I have a soul. And my dog has a soul too. Her soul wants to take the same walk again and again. We are lying in bed, and the thing that makes the day start happens. I'm mostly happy if I fell asleep reading, or that the last thing I did turning pages rather than foisting all that electronic light into my brain. I fell asleep dull and in the private world of my book. Okay, I might as well get up, and it could be 6, but it's most likely 8. I stick my glasses on and my phone into the pocket of my pajamas. I go into the kitchen, and I look out the window, and I see the light, and then I put the water on. There might be dishes in the sink. My ex used to be passionate about cleaning the dishes at night, and I brought that regime into my life for a while. And indeed, the emptiness of the clean kitchen felt great, but I don't have to do that. And I'll wipe a knife or a spoon while the water's boiling. About 2 years ago, I stopped drinking coffee and moved to green tea. It's a softer high and better for ritual. It's full of ritual like a cigarette. The water boils, and I cool it for 2 minutes, and then I pour it into the kyusu. I wait 2.5 minutes and drink that tea, and then I do it again. The second time it steeps for 3 minutes. There's a third infusion, but I generally wait and drink that later in the day. I'm doing that right now. I just want to say, as I watch my numbers shrinking, and I mean the word count of this piece is only so long that all the things that destroyed me in life, the horror of dailiness, I experience now with this neglectful respect. Perverse reading again and again, I find. I think of the hot day in summer many years ago in New York. I was living upstate, so I was in Manhattan in hot fucking August doing errands, and it was hell. I'm walking down St. Mark's Place in a pile of anxious dread, and I had the thought, it will always be like this. And I thought it again. It will always be like this. And it was cool. It was like air conditioning. Everything was cooling. And with notable exception, like I do fall into a pit, but this is pretty much my life. This condemned dailiness, cutting, cleaning, jumping on the subway, going around and around, being watched, and there's no one there at all. And the dog nods because she wants her walk, that walk, and we do it every day. And every day is exactly the same, but different. I'm on a plane, and I've done this before. Listen, feel the lift. Thank you. And now I'm going to read some poems from this orange book. And I've got to control myself because, I guess it's okay. It's like I know when I should stop, more or less. But if I just read all the poems that I listed on my playlist, we'll just be here all night. Because I want to get to new poems and this little story, too. But let's see what happens. Okay, I guess I do have to start with, this is called For My Friend. And my friend, I was talking about, my friend was in love with somebody, and it was so funny that I thought I was the person to give her advice about love, which is like the most ludicrous idea of all time. See, I've gotten really good at drinking water in front of people and not minding how long it takes. Nothing better for people than dogs. Nothing better than making you scream here. There were 2 super new cars and then some pink chicken fillets. I guess there were berries for sale in Scandinavia. A man in a plaid shirt and cookies. Also, they are working in the cemetery. I can see their blue ladder from here. A man has written a book about many deaths or many things to do after. Read it, they say. But what comes after is a small idea. Now is large, rainy. Amy, I wish you luck. To love. Do you only go to new places? Is it true? Did the planet just get born? You and your little legs, and I in my tree am love. The baby crying is the bouncing plane, the strange wind that killed Bob. All of it is true, and I in my rot am having the time of my life. This is I think weirdly, I had this conversation with you guys today that I guess I'm reading these. It was like a fart, like a giant fart from outside. It was so. I was, what is that? That's not human. It's so weird. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it. Okay. So yeah, if you go on YouTube and look for Eileen Myles, The Trip, you will see a Super 8 puppet road film. You will not be wasting 17 minutes of your time. But they're actually puppets that I made when I was like 9 years old, and I've lost so many things in my life, but I have not lost these puppets. And so in Marfa, I got the great idea because is Michael Fenster here? I don't know. We made a film together. We decided to make a film that was taking the puppets on the road trip from Marfa to Alpine, which is 25 miles, and there's mountains on both sides. It's a great trip. So one of the puppets from the cast from childhood was in the film. Casper, a ghost, amazingly, but it was like a German Casper, because the woman who taught us was German. Her name was Miss Ursula. And weirdly, in the film, when Casper started to talk, and I was the voice, Casper's voice became very peculiar, and I was like, who is this voice? And it was like, Miss Ursula. So I'm kind of channeling her a bit. I don't know. I'm not as a poet. I'm an actor, so I can't reliably bring up a voice. It just might happen, in a way. It might take me over. I heard that. Okay, so this is Casper. So this is just a monologue from the film. This is not the end of the story. Oh no. I may begin my life as a college student, approximately 88 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border, here on the white steps of Sul Ross University, named after a Confederate general. Here, if they accept me, I may study thought and meaning and study itself. I may study plankton and clouds, mountains, cell phones, and ghosts. But I am a ghost, born in Eileen's child hands, head of paper mache, a gown fashioned of soft cloth that Emma found. In a way, a puppet, a ghost. It's almost like poet voice, but a puppet doing poet voice. In a way, a puppet, a ghost truth be told is a zombie, the undead, never born, never dying, never arriving. I make common cause now with the slaves of the world, prisoners of our security state, and most abundantly, most locally today, America's prisoners of war. Not immigrants, illegals, aliens, but refugees, children, women, and men in jails and cages not far from here. A multitude less visible than a ghost, more silent than a puppet. They are not criminals, these people brayed about by politicians, kept away from friendship, pleasure, health, and safety in the dark, but refugees in a never-ending war this country wages against the poor and vulnerable, victims, descendants, recipients of our endless interventions in Latin America, our wars worldwide and in our jails, detained at our borders, helped by our friend Israel, exporting their security craft around the world, abolish all of it, the borders and the jails and the police state, open the door, RIP, not rest in peace, but abolish the racist imperialist patriarchy. Abolish it, abolish it, abolish it, abolish it, abolish it, abolish it now. Thank you. Again, I didn't know it was going to distort into that at the end. It was just like, okay, this is March 3rd. And we had a snowstorm in New York that the mayor was not ready for, and the whole city got completely shut down. And so the next time we were going to have a snowstorm, they were like, "I got this," and so they shut the city down, and we didn't have a snowstorm. It was like so great. So I was teaching at NYU at the time, and I had like snow day in bed by myself writing a poem. So the quick exchange of email. I think maybe that. The quick exchange of emails between the former lovers creates a soft hole in the day and the night before. It snowed, but it was supposed to be larger, and everything's closed. The streets are wet, I hear, and I won't step into them. One poem for today, but no, many little ones. The coffee, slightly altered, is good. My bare feet in bed, ready to work. I work in the field of dreams where I've met you many times. I feel closer to you this morning and probably last night when the doorway slightly opened because of our notes was flooded with ghosts. When I was young, I liked the emptiness of my home, and now, like it or not, there is this sweet accumulation. The camera is all that everything I do can't touch the single statement of breeze and loss and quaint beauty, things I've had since I was a kid, the secrets of my home. I feel condemned by this chaotic museum of stuff, and yes, I desire to photograph it, the bowls you liked, the cup you touched, and me in a t-shirt that used to be special, and now I carouse in bed with myself in it. I don't know if this will ever be different, and that is the feeling of this. I feel like a tree, the invisible parts of friendship and drinking together and warning. One empty wall is the least I can do for myself. Late at night, I enjoyed the brown pages of a cowboy show, TV on my lap, till practically dawn, interesting, written by a gambler. Oh, I have so many shows. One in Florence one day, you were taking a shower. I thought I loved this television. Because it's become the way to love. The road of becoming is a screen belonging on it in my dream. The excellent moments, the man barges in and says, "Do you ever think about film?" The poetry of accident haunts like a circus tent over my days. And that fades, and a new one. I begin to write about dying. This story ends. It begins to be part of the plot, and do I love you for your distance from it, or could I love you because you are close, or your exciting difference so smart? I love myself. The squeaky little voice that says, "In here," owning the void and grooving on it. Voiceover, "You're not so bad." And then I begin to work. My dead mother is around, my lover not far, keeping you here by not calling anyone. Is that the tub in which I die? Weirdo, woo, woo, woo. What's that bird? Because I don't have kids, and this is such a blessing. And I'm going to go backwards now. Where is it? This is called Lucky Kittens. I met something cool and I can't shake it. I want to write a poem to the new thing. Nothing more trans than taking a shit in the men's room in a hotel. Also, I had a perfect breakfast and am well. I exercised, all good things, and once again I'm flying. A world without mother is a world without meat. I'm not crying, I'm flying. Honestly, I took my mother's tear from the corner of her eye. It happened when she died. I took it on my finger and I wiped it on my jeans. The rattling of paper is an exquisite disconnect, old-fashioned, all breaks, making space, always ready for a fight. My heat is instantly shadowy, like a moving hand or sound, like no jazz at all. This one, this is like a fundraising poem, in that one of my nonprofit friends in New York is PS New York. It used to be PS 122, and they were doing a benefit auction, and they were like, "Would you donate something?" And I was like, "Okay," and I was like, "I'll donate a poem for your dog," and they were like, "Okay." And they auctioned off my poem, and somebody bought it for $5,000. It's just like, whoa. So then I had to go into the depths of richest Chelsea, this incredible building with amazing blue chip art collection, and meet these two newfies, Penny and Paisley, and I had to meet the dogs, right? So we took the dogs for a walk. I saw where they had their favorite little breakfast treat. And then I go off, and amazingly, I had my first trip to Greece soon after. So met the dogs, left town, went to Greece, and then I get this email, "Where's my poem?" And I was like, oh shit, I gotta write the poem. So I wrote the poem fairly swiftly, maybe right after I got back, and then I sent it to them, and I never heard anything. And then I wrote that again, I was like, maybe you missed the poem, and then I've never heard from, so I just want to read the $5,000 poem. I was like, come on. It's called The Library. Penny and Paisley study maps. Penny and Paisley abhor literature. Penny and Paisley wear hats. Paisley's got a bushy foot, wavy back. Penny's very thirsty, camping over the bowl or the water like a platypus, just like that. Like literature, like a library. She's a beautiful mass. She just sits there. Paisley lifts her telescope at the Acropolis, at the bay. Ears are lost in her brownness. Wiggle wave, huff, huff. Penny and Paisley at the deli. 3 paradise, please. 3 seasoned sausage and egg. I love ruins, says Penny. Just get the sandwiches, says Paisley. Remember the dead? Every mountain in Greece is named after St. Elias. Remember him? Get me sandwich. Day, bay. My breathing is like the chug of a train. Forward always, says Penny. Lobby in, lobby out. Get me a boat. Penny and Paisley are sailing. Dusk falling on the ruins, on Shelter Island, on the sea. Penny and Paisley are singing as the light falls, as the sandwich warms, on the deck of the boat, as the dogs dive in and splash around, and they're turning to see what you see at sea, they sing. And the sun warms the dog, and the dog warms the egg, and the egg warms the sea, and the sea warms the day. Penny and Paisley are sailing as they're swaying down the street, and the dogs wrote a book, and the dogs went to bed, and the dogs had a day. That's just what it said. What the fuck, right? What the fuck? I was like, come on. I was like, and this is the first poem I wrote on Zoom during the pandemic. It's called Howl. Are we? Oh no, where is it? A refrigerator makes a lot of sound. So does a bird. People are always talking, full of love and pain. We started a fund, and the dogs are needing some money, and I don't know how to do it, and I'll learn from one of them. Tom's blue shirt and glasses are perfect. My T-shirt is good. My pen works. I breathe. Now this one, this is like a little journey through my poetry world. Okay, so during the pandemic, I was in Marfa, and my then girlfriend was on Long Island, and she was like, "Come here," and I was like, "No," you know. So we had this problem for months, and so I tried to write. This is a poem of mediation, trying to put the two worlds together. So it's called "Put My House." Put my house inside the boat. Can we do that? Put my dog inside of your dog. Put these birds inside of yours. Put my ocean. Put your ocean all over my mountains. Put my mountains in there. Put my dog in yours. My dog walk is safe inside your dog walk. Let me eat inside you. Let me eat your food. Let me eat your house. Put your house inside my dog. Put your dog on my boat. Naturalize. Put my heart in yours. Put my mouth on your mouth. Put my hair in yours. Let me breathe inside you. Let me smell your guts. Put your boat in my eye. Let me eat your friends. Put these hours inside your hours. Eat this bird, sheep. Eat my dog's foot. Eat that ocean. Run to him or the ocean. Run to them. Hear these birds cheep. Fly to me. Eat my foot. Put my house inside yours. In your mind, think me fly. This fly me home, love me now. Forget your phone, eat my heart. Run to him or the ocean. Tweet, tweet, tweet. Dog growl, cluck, click. Put my house right in there. Yeah, that's me looking out the window. Look at me. Bark, bark, bark. Put your heart inside that bark. Thank you. This is sort of a dream. I feel like I have all these hangovers from all these conversations I've had with writers here this week. Sort of in classrooms. And one of the things, anyway, something that I think about a lot is that dreams are like the perfect object for writing poems off of, because they're fleeting. So you can't, it's incomplete. So you're always doing this thing of trying to kind of get it or trying to articulate it or something, and then it's impossible. So the impossibility is this beautiful poetic form. So it's only, a few times I've woken out of sleep and instantly wrote a poem, and it really worked. And then many times it's not worked at all, and I just have these things in my notebook. But this one is called Monday Shit. And of course, the people at Grove were like, "Are you sure about that title?" And yes, I'm sure, but it's a dream. I don't know if I'm knowing something or falling apart. I put my 2 feet together. It's Monday. Put the water on. I was dropping a man off, a dark-haired friend. I was parked in the middle of the plaza. I can't stay here. I went inside a little. I gotta go. And I went up there over the lumpy hills. The store where the women work, my friends, an old guitar store. Everything's different now because of the pandemic. I want to go to that, I think. Can I put my bike behind the counter or up there? No, because we're moving. I see plenty of room. Next, I'm all involved with them, the kids, and they're playing outside. I'm in the apartment somehow, and everyone's gone, like I woke. I could have put my bicycle anywhere. It's morning. I called the children like it's morning. Where did this shit come from? And I found the morning coffee, and this is a miracle. I just called them, and they came in like dogs. I dreamed this world. That's it. Does it work this way? Working, dreaming, having a life, making and dying. Why did I die to dream this? And everyone that knows me or something, somewhere or some while, I know you once in a while. I truly forgot about him. I didn't know he was going to do that. Everybody's not in a dream but me, or we find each other here. I didn't know their fucking names, but I found their children. I was first. I'm waking here. It's perfect, everything, because coffee's like music. I thought about quitting in the future for the better orgasm. I read that. Did it once in the 80s. We were camping and shit. Whoa. Waking from that dream into this, but my cave, my hovel, afraid to put it in a suitcase. Will my dreaming come? The feeling of flowing with you, but you have 7 stories, and I have 3, possibly 3. 1 flooded with a baby. Do I know? All I know is this kid. I'm just thinking about what you're getting into as I'm making my day. How did it end this time? Feeding the yellow dog. I was looking for a parking place, and it was my dike, my children, and I didn't know anyone's names. Is this the story that holds the future, or is this the day so marvelous, pouring some of it over and over there? I think it's perfect in me, this prophecy right here. Now it holds. This is called Look What the Cat Dragged In. Did your family say that? Some did. Sometimes I feel like there's a lot of death in this book. I don't know what that, yeah, I think the idea is that within everybody's life, they actually die at some point. So it's become like a character in my poetry. Sometimes I feel like I'm in some movie about death. This rainy night, pull your hood off and get inside the eerie, splashing silence of it, each eerie step. No, I do not want to get on your bus, unlocking my bike. I thought about them tonight. I could try. Go on a journey, see everyone. No one does that anymore. And then we were all in the room, the Zoom room. And that's why I was thinking of them, because they were there. I don't know them at all. I could make the effort. I'd be known as them that came that one time. The whole city gleaming in my head, wet and black. I'm out in it with my groceries. I don't even want you now, I've got to say this. She showed up late, and I thought, look what the cat dragged in. It meant we were close. And there they were in my head. That's where they live, feeding me things. Look what the cat dragged in. Would she know it was love? Would anybody? Actually, I'm so bad. I fucked that up. Look what the cat dragged in. Would she know it was love? Would anyone? Not anybody, anyone. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. And I think one more from this book. How am I doing? Mice. Okay. Okay, this is mice. They see a cluster of small. I feel like I'm being a funny poet tonight. This doesn't always happen. Some nights it's like deeply sad and erotic in the darkest possible way. But tonight it's funny. They see a cluster of small rubber ducks and scraps of broken shells and think, I'll shit there. We describe them as brazen when they run through what actually is their home. So I begin to kill them because I'm better than them. One was seen running into the bathroom, my bathroom, and a small, frail one was found dead right on the floor, and the poison is working, and I feel bad. Because, in fact, I liked living with them. They're part of my life. They're little shits everywhere, and I have killed their child. They're unclean, anyone would say. Isn't that why I must kill them? But I'm unclean, too. Isn't that why they're here? And I generally have guests who say, this place is so small. They look around, and I feel shame. And I look around usually right after a trip or in a couple of days, and it's small. But not to them. They think it's huge, perfect, and that is a friend. And why don't I keep them around? Come back, and I know you will. So you don't think that's the end of the reading, do you? This is not the end of the reading. Yeah, I wanted to read some new ones, and then I think it's 20, 30. It's tight. Okay, I'm going to read mostly animal poems. The animal thing is very strong in my life right now. They're very sad. But I will say, the thing is, if you can just kill animals, you can just kill anything. And as we know, people get called animals, and that means we can just kill them. So you start with the animals, you treat the animals right, and it just goes on, I think. In New York City, where I live, it kills animals, like with great, aplomb. It's horrendous. And it's getting worse. So this is called Warm Mountains. Well, I'm perched over Paris. So I'm on a plane. There's a lot of plane poems here. Well, I'm perched over Paris. I want to say hello. The camera on the plane pulls back, and now it's looking on the ocean and then a list of names. The Pyrenees are dangling down there. Only on a map are mountains flat. I like mountains because they remind me of history, the world getting poured. A mountain is a kind of splash, ocean's residue. And I can rise to the plight of the fish. More are killed than anything. I don't know what to do with the endlessness of my feelings. I'm the last one on earth thinking about orchard. a cruel name for a small dog found in the streets of an unkind city, a dog of no gender, blue-gray, slightly red, and when he was captured by the city for no purpose except this, small dog should go there. He was so appalled and confused by this hard cell he found himself in, he peed and pooped on the floor. He's scared, I cried, thinking that would bring him some love. And he needed someone to fill out forms to walk in the door and bring little Orchard home, but he's dead. In a city, a small dog that no one wants gets a needle in his heart. It stops, maybe not right away, but he's tossed in a bag, brought to a crematorium on Long Island that has a blazing fire full of cats and dogs. The city pays them so much to do this. Terrible burning, that some dogs, like Orchard, are covering a debt. Orchard was just weight, like the slight addition of his death helped somebody out in keeping the figures in line. The payment must have a purpose. The further from the dogs, the emptier the line, it all being kept on a computer somewhere that gets erased from time to time because the cheapness of this story, a dog got a pretty name, but no hands come for his warm, pretty shoulder. I've made him a boy with colors in his fur and light in his eyes, and he would run. I could be that I'm not going to read a story. I'm just going to end with poems. What do you think? Could be. Or I could stop reading poems and read a story. Could I crowdsource this question? No? Whoa, I heard both. That was high. I heard both. It might go even a little longer than the, yeah, okay. Well, another, not an animal poem. This is called Ginger Ale. You don't want to think about chickens going over London. Millions of chickens opening their eyes for 1 second, waking up in a cage, no, in a wide field of tiny chickens, like a mile-wide tray. And they get these chemicals on their feet. That's the only way I can imagine it, filled with sex drug that makes them wild, distorted, crippled. And how did they kill the chickens all at once? Where did chickens come from anyway? Some chickens wake up in some nice place like Leslie's, where they live for a while, having friends in her yard with their different personalities, but the millions and trillions of the other kind, one flash of light, then they're eaten on a plane. We're flying and we're eating them. And aren't they birds? And the plane is going over water now, a plane full of killers, desperately looking for something good with their fingers. But there's nothing good. How could there be? The chicken's death is not on your hands. Something else is. I think 2 more poems and a story. I think that's the way it'll work. There was a very good one about cows in here. Cows. Checks. There's a book of poetry. This book of poetry that was written by AI. Have you heard about this book that Little Brown published? These poets got an advance more than any of us will ever get. Like you could put 75 of us together and we still wouldn't get that advance. It's so insane. So these poets came to me and they said, they asked me and Sharon Olds, they asked a few poets if we would read their manuscript and tell them what we think. And I was like, fuck them, But that particular day, all these things had happened, like rats ate the wires in my Prius and my car wouldn't go. And then one bad thing, and then my dog was having surgery and I got a ticket. And so I just wrote them and I said, if you would pay my parking ticket, I'll meet with you. So he was like, okay. He said, but can I use that in the introduction? I said, fine. So that's really the end of the story, except here's a poem. It's called Feeder. The embodiment of the poet is the point, and that's why it's okay for you to pay my parking ticket, especially to pay it in cash. And not because of the cute anecdote about the car and the rats and the rental and the dog surgery and parking in front of the hydrant and getting towed and getting a ticket for that and you paid it. I will pay the ticket on my computer, but I will buy food with your cash. It's why nobody likes to support poetry. They'll just use it to pay their rent, which is right. Survival is my art, a violent act it is. You know, it's really not so long still. This is kind of cool. It's called Home. Announcing my presence through a coven of candles and repeated weak tea. Get up and dust something. You are here, and now I'm the naked spot on the thought. He said the discourse is unconscious or something like that, and wait for the checks to roll in. I need more candles, a better app, and shit, I just broke the wick. I liked his show about so much violence after so much loss. He was like a killing machine, but you kind of understand. Like my house is breathing, it gets me, my dog is breathing. When he said organic could be part of the pitch, I said, okay. I said essential, like sitting in a chair. He said, you're already there. And now I'm getting, I think, okay, cows and a story. You ready? Okay, this is, my dog, Honey, she was a stray from the Bronx. And yet she has a total obsession with large farm animals. And so I got her, so I lived some of the time in Texas, and I got her a subscription to this magazine called Livestock Weekly. So it would come into, it was so great, it would come into the mailbox in Marfa, Honey, Terrence Miles, and then her. And so there's always like sad animals on the cover who you know what's going to happen to these animals. Nobody friends. Nobody's talking about the five of you, a family. The blue sky gets all the talk. That's sometimes brown. I see accusation in your bright white faces, a wee bit of fear, because posing for a picture means what for cows? You'll bring expected prices, they say. You lived in North Texas. There's a reddish tree, and we're standing far back from where you gaze and head down eating grass. There's brown along the skyline, bumpy, looking like paradise, the caption says, but on closer examination reveals short pickings. I saved you for what? To say you've been and gone, and each time you pose, I think of you and go, oh, long dead people look so dumb. You're the same ones I know today, and the photos are blatantly poor. The light on your face and bodies, the way you stand, the day is true, still is, yours, all yours. So, the finale, okay, can you take 6 minutes? You got it? Okay, a 6 minutes, it's part of, I think this is part of a novel, but it's called Early Writing. And I think part of the thing about this story is that I wrote about, when I wrote it, the people were alive, and since then, the people have died, and it feels different and strange, but there's a young writer in here, and she was alive and is alive. So anyway, it's about writers writing about each other, which we do. The thing about being written about that's a problem is that nobody wants you to have the whole thing, to say it. I don't want to be in your reality. I want to be in my girlfriend's, and I want her to be in mine. And I think about a space which is this sweet overlap. But for instance, I don't want to hear how she talks about our relationship to her friends. Every time I say something about her to my friend on the phone, I think, why is it so easy here to describe what she does? But facing her, my version melts. Writing, however, is the place where we are able to put them inside of our story, and so they are like little tiny people in the palm of your hand. I love when they were both writers and we could be in this big story together, and nobody wrote it. The inside was jagged, happy we could all allude to it in our poems. And one time he told us his fantasies, and they were disgusting. And hers were just like her poems and were filled with compensations for the sparse pleasures of her childhood. And now there was an abundance of people as opposed to the grim few in Brooklyn. I enjoyed being a poet, but even then I wanted a house like the one I have now. I was adamant that I needed to get famous then, when I was young. I mean, it's interesting because if that person had got what they wanted, I can't even imagine what that would look like. It's easy to say I'd be dead, and it might be true. When I think of Kurt's 27-year-old body sprawled on the floor, it just gets weirder and weirder. When I think of Will bleeding out in the bathtub, when I think of Heather leaning forward to her bed, strangling herself, Christina doing the same, Emma with a scarf in Italy, Tootsie, some lonesome place turned blue. I wouldn't have died like them because I kept retracting my wishes, though I may have bumbled in. So the house I would have bought keeps disappearing with my dead body in it. My dog walks towards the door and sees that it's a screen and shuffles back. I've trained her to be like that. I joke with friends that you break their spirit. I'm thinking about the impossibility of telling my young story while I was young. If I wrote anything larger than a poem or did a play again and again, if it was good, or read the poem that brought the house down the second night instead of needing to be different all the time. No, I just thought reaching for success seemed fraudulent. I thought a calculated arrival would never work because my hand would vanish as I was reaching, vanishing back into the mists of my shifting dream. I remember I wanted to be a rake, a large man in a leather jacket, irresistible in his insouciance. French. I couldn't tell my lovers who I was at 31, but in my dream, he grew large. I would write a novel, a soft green story in which everyone I knew had slightly altered names, and I would declare, at least there, who I wanted to be, and I sat down daily in my apartment at my desk, and I deployed the results. Not being satisfied with my house, I built another one, and I could even build another one inside of that. This is that. By the time I was writing my novel about our relationship, it was already losing its elasticity, and there was a need for other projects. I was bringing in the bread in my head. Often the paper I wrote on was used and had some other typing on the other side. My friends were all poets, making poetry magazines out of rough, thick paper that received the chemicals and the pounding of the keys to produce magazines. And there were too often too many copies of page 63. I wrote on them. And I think I even had extra pages from my own little book. And I would write my novel on the other side so that it indeed really felt like a draft. That paper was too thick to go someplace else. It wanted to be here. I had a way to be away from them now, and not even me, but a person in the future writing like this in a small apartment I made bigger by the effort of returning every day. And it was like building another room or a tunnel to the world. Last winter, she showed me several passages from her novel in which I appear from when she was obsessed with me. I have become, in some ways, the person I long ago planned to be, but I am not that person. It just works that way, having badly and then repeatedly and then successfully done that. And now here I, walk out into the world to be pursued by her and rejecting her and eventually being depicted in print. I read it. First of all, she didn't use page numbers, my total pet peeve. Because I want everything to be over all the time. I'm waiting. What is that relationship to pleasure? Is there any? I am releasing and I am counting all the time. I have a phone date in 11 minutes. It's Sunday. I write in little bursts. So I appear in my friend's novel as I bluntly wrote myself, as I appear in the world and am not, and therefore am hiding happily in the house, inside the house, inside the house. But that's not it. That would be too cute. Her writing is very good, and I even think she's learned from me, but not too much. It's all her. That's the thing that's weird about the people who have taught you something, and you dwelled for a while in that teaching and that love, and they declare, I taught you nothing. But they tipped your hand and expanded your map. If this doesn't sound like fundraising prose, the horse was gifted with a number of jumps, but it's still the horse. And at first you stop at the jump and say, no, I don't do that. And then you do, and it's odd, but occasionally brilliant. And occasionally it sticks. Your love for a teacher enhances your game. They were not my teachers. They were my lovers. I would go to my room, and I was in practice for my life. I had a collarless shirt. I wrote 58 pages. I showed it to him. She would not look. Firstly, he was mad and ashamed that I depicted myself as an arrogant and lazy, preening man. Putting him and his wife and his children inside my world was the worst hauteur. What about me, he cried. They were now in my little crystal ball, and I was making those mesmerizing, waving hands, being a little swami, and the power of my childhood, indeed the magic I saw, had always been coming from the East. I was nature boy. He would not look inside my ball and see the tiny family, and his dream, which was merely patriarchal, you are predictable, was even worse. There was only one man in the family, and it was him. But I was cute and 6 feet tall and lazy. I wore a leather jacket. I had bangs. I was a mooch. They were utterly charmed by me, and that was my hustle. No, no, he screamed. He sneered that the writing was bad. So terrible. It's a miracle. I realized that deep in my archive is a folder that contains this very bad novel. If I have a bad day here, most days increasingly magic and trippy and not real, I am growing my life. I am growing another. I want my writing to be transporting. I want to take you away, but on bad days, I am writing exactly like that large, lazy, seductive man until he had to do a thing, and my poorly named characters, were a beloved jumble by confused, hungover, and amphetamine-driven. I was hungry, I was young, I didn't even know how to sit down. I watch a cat walking stealthily across my yard, and they know a dog is living here who is sleeping right near me in the tiny writing house. The bad writing is the sleeping dog that just doesn't know what's swift and good is the smart tippy-toeing cat that manages to make their way across the yard without a ruckus. And here now, here in my crystal ball, even the kindness I feel now towards the one who sits down writing badly, full of all their louche and sexy desires, frankly offensive, banging paper to make him a house that got them here. I hope it will be magic. Thank you. Thank you so much.
One more time for Eileen Myles. Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming. Those books are for sale over here. Come bring them up and get them signed. If anybody out in the breezeway can help us stack chairs, connect with the Poetry Center staff member and we'll show you how to do it. We'd love your help. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week on Thursday. See you everybody.